Hello and welcome to a brief history of teas, tisanes, and infusions. Let's go ahead and let's get started. So it all began once upon a time in China with Emperor Shen Nung around 2737 BC. So the emperor was sitting under a tree with his hot water, for the emperor had noticed how the subjects in his land were healthier if they boiled their water and drank it hot instead of cold. When all of a sudden, down came a leaf into the emperor's tea. We don't know what kind of leaf this was, but we could consider this the first infusion. From that point, later in 530 AD, a man named Tamo created the tea plant. The tea plant is actually Camellia sinensis, and when we talk about tea, what we are actually talking about is Camellia sinensis, as opposed to an herbal infusion. So, and when we say Tamo created the tea plant, there is a story about Tamo being interrupted during his meditation and getting frustrated, and the product of his frustration was the tea plant, or the Camellia sinensis plant. And you can see the tea leaves in this picture, and this is how they are oxidized, and in various states of oxidization from this point on is where we get things like green tea or white tea or black tea. So at some point tea comes to England, and around 1657 the first shop to sell tea in England was opened. This shop sold tea that was imported by the Dutch, and from this point on, tea began to become increasingly popular in England. But what is a tisane? We said we were going to talk about teas, tisanes, and infusions. So what is a tisane? Well, a tisane is a British term often used to refer to an herbal infusion. However, historically, a tisane was made from barley, which you see in the picture. However, as things have come down, a tisane now refers to any type of herbal infusion, and you might commonly hear this term in England. Eventually, tea came to America. And a favorite type of tea for the settlers here in America was bee balm, or it's also known as Oswego tea. Sometimes we hear it referred to as bergamot, and this was a favorite plant to make tea, or perhaps an infusion, of the settlers, because it tasted very similar to the tea that they got back in England. Now, there's some debate as to whether or not the settlers actually discovered this on their own, or whether or not the Native Americans here introduced them to it. They say that they discovered it on their own. However, if it was here and being used, then it was probably a Native American discovery originally. However, at some point, tea becomes known as the baneful herb, and people in America stopped drinking it. This happened after the Boston Tea Party. And after the Boston Tea Party, people started to grow their own gardens instead of drinking tea imported from England. They would use things like sage or rosemary or mint to make their own teas or infusions. And from this point, tea, as from the Camellia sinensis plant, started to wane in popularity in the United States. However, as we know from walking into any store today, tea is once again very, very popular in the United States, and you can find so many different forms of tea. including green tea made with a whisk that's called matcha tea, made from a powder. We have all sorts of paraphernalia to make our tea, including tea balls or tea bags. We also have the beautiful blooming teas that bloom and look like a flower in your cup and make a very, very mild tasting tea. So this is where we're at with tea today. This is just a brief history to give you guys an idea of where we came from with tea. And I thank you for coming, and I hope I see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.